Greetings, family. Sister Shanice in the house. How are you doing? Certainly hope that you are well. Certainly hope that you have risen in power and risen in strength today to accomplish March. We are on the last day of 2025, and I certainly hope that 2025 has been a great year for you. And no matter how great it has been, I certainly hope that it's going to be an even better year for you come 2025. Sorry, come 2026. So as you prepare for 2026, I hope that, you know, everything is just going to fall in order for you. All the plans, all the strategies, all the organizing that you've been doing in 2025, I certainly hope that it's all going to come to fruition in 2026 if it hasn't already done so. And so I'm going live, as you can figure out, a little bit earlier than usual, 1 hour earlier than usual, because I know everybody's going to have a really busy time later today, planning on how you're going to be seen in the new year. So whatever you're doing to see in the new year, I hope it's going to be absolutely fantastic, blacktastic, absolutely awesome for you, your family, your friends, and your loved ones. And so whatever you're doing, family, make it a great one. Make it a great one indeed. Okay, so I'm just going to be posting the link in the background as I'm talking here. So you know, it's not that I'm not paying attention, it's just that I'm also posting the links in the background. You know how we do. If you're a regular visitor to this channel, you'll know that that's what I normally do. If you're not a regular visitor and you're scrolling and passing my channel for the first time, I just want to welcome you. Welcome. This is the Sister Shanice Show platform. I have well over 400 videos on this channel. You can scroll and look at the videos in your own time. I've had some amazing guests throughout the years that I have been putting together shows on this platform. And so almost any of the shows that you pick, I'm sure is going to be a great one. So who am I, in case you're wondering? Well, I'm Sister Shanice. I'm a graduate of Dr. Winter's Phenomenology Research Program. That particular program is absolutely awesome. And what it was designed to do was to build a new strand of African-centered researchers and producers of scholarly work. And it was designed to ensure that those of us who go on to do that scholarly work will actually focus our efforts on uncovering hidden archaeological, anthropological, linguistic, genetic, you know, and symbolic proof of our cultural and historical heritage that we have left behind, that our ancestors left behind on this planet as evidence of our presence here during ancient times. And you know, since I've done that program, I've gone on to write several books, and one of the books is right here, Hidden in the Shadows of Ancient Britain, an erased African history restored. So you can get that book on Amazon. Go to amazon.com or amazon.co.uk. It's an absolutely fantastic book. You'll really enjoy reading it. It uncovers Britain's best kept secret. Yeah, the best kept secret is the fact that we as Africans were the original people of Britain, and that, you know, they are fairly recent to the country compared to us as Africans. And their best kept secret is that the evidence is still there all over Britain, you know, of our former existence and the existence of our ancestors. So, for example, Scotland was named after Queen Scotia, who was the daughter of an Egyptian pharaoh, who became queen and whose descendants ruled Ireland and Scotland for over 1,000 years. You know, and if you went to school, college, and university in Britain, you would not be taught this. And unless you get my book, you know, read it for yourself, the likelihood is that you're not going to know this either. And so, you know, as Marcus Messiah Garvey told us, a people without knowledge of their past history and origin and culture is like a tree without roots. And for too long, family, we have been a people like a tree without roots. And that's why, you know, that phenomenology research program that I did with Dr. Wims's was so important, because it was all about us, you know, doing a research for ourselves, uncovering our history and our heritage for ourselves. And I'm focusing on our history in Britain, because there's just a wealth of history that we've got in Britain that's been covered up. You know, we've been in Britain at least 44,000 years. Some archaeologists claim that we have probably, as Africans, been in Britain for over 200,000 years. So that gives you a clear indication of the amount of history that we've got in Britain. And the Europeans, they've only been in Britain. The Europeans, as we know them today, the white people who we know today as Europeans, because we were the original Europeans, but the white people who we know as Europeans today have only been in Britain about 1,700 years max, according to their own scientists. It's not just me saying that, you know. And so we've got artifacts, we've got megalithic structures in Britain that go back thousands of years before the arrival of the first white person. Skeleton remains that have been found in Britain that date thousands of years old. And so now we know, you know, and geneticists are proving that all of these ancient skeletons and these ancient ceremonial sites and sites like Stonehenge, etc., were actually built by Africans. And so this is a new day, family, where all of this sort of information is being revealed to us. And, you know, there are many like myself who are capturing this information and putting it into book form, so that even in 100, 200, 300 years to come, you know, our future generations will be able to pick up a book like mine. If you've got it, obviously, in your family, they'll be able to pick up a book and read about their history and acquire the knowledge about who we are as the original Britons and what happened to us. So all of the sources, my studies, you know, the documents that I've referred to, the scientific journals, etc., that I've referred to, are all in this book. Okay, so please do make sure that you get a copy of the book for 2026. Don't let your children go through another year without knowing who they are, without knowing, you know, how great they really, really are as young African Britons or Black Britons, however they prefer to describe themselves, and however you have grown your children and taught your children to describe themselves. So I'm still posting in the background, and you know, as I do the posting, actually, I just want to also send out my heartfelt condolences to our British boxer Anthony Joshua, who was injured in a car crash in Nigeria, the same crash that killed two of his very close friends and team members. Anthony Joshua is a British heavyweight boxer, and he's only recently won a boxing match. And, you know, he and his friends were in Nigeria celebrating. They hadn't even been there long when they got involved in a very serious car incident. And, you know, tragically, it's reported that what happened was that there was a lorry that had broken down in the road and was just left there unattended, no cones, no hazard lights, no warning, you know, so that cars could have avoided the lorry. And it seems that his car was coming, you know, at quite a speed and, you know, overtook a car, and then there was the lorry right in front that they then sadly crashed into. And as I said, two of his team members tragically died in that crash. And, you know, Anthony Joshua is in hospital right now, family, as we speak. So our heart goes out to the family members and the friends of Anthony Joshua, and also to the family members and friends of those who died in the crash. Very serious indeed. And that just leads me on to comment really about what I consider to be the lack of road safety on the roads in Africa generally. You know, wow, I've traveled, you know, not extensively across Africa, but I have traveled a bit, and I'm always on the roads when I'm on the continent. And I must say, road safety does seem to be very low in the priority of things, and it's not good. No, it's not good at all, because, you know, I can't count actually the number of times that, you know, I've come across broken down vehicles that have just been left in the middle of the road, right where they've broken down lorries, broken down cars. You know, in Britain, for example, if a car breaks down, you have to push it to one side of the road. You have to push it to a place of safety. But quite often in the roads of Africa, oh my God, these cars are just left wherever they've broken down, in the middle of the highway, in the fast lane, in the slow lane. It doesn't seem to matter. And it's so, so dangerous. And the other thing is that sometimes, you know, it doesn't even have, you know, there's no cones, no hazard lights, no warning. You know, the least we can do is put some stones and some bush, you know, on the approach to the vehicle so that people can go around it. But as I said, sadly, you know, that sort of, you know, those sorts of safety measures are not put in place in the way that ideally they ought to be. And so that is definitely something that needs looking into right across the continent. Improvement in road safety across the board. I think we just need to, you know, value life, put a higher value on life and a higher value on road safety, and we will save many, many lives in the future, family. I'm absolutely sure of that. So if you're just coming through the doors, welcome, welcome. The chat is a bit quiet at the moment, but you know, I'm hoping that you will be joining me soon. And for those of you who are watching on replay, because I normally start at 8 o'clock and are expecting me to start at 8, and are going to find me here, you know, an hour into the show when you do join, you know, please do watch this on replay, and also share as well. Share the links to family members and friends. Okay, I mean, there's so much more personal that I can do, but let me just do one or two more, because I always get a couple of people to say, oh, I didn't know you was live. Why didn't you send me the link? And so I do try to send out the links to those of you who especially asked me to send you the link. So I want to rise up, brother I am. I want to rise up, brother Kwame Oboje. I want to rise up, brother Geb. Want to rise up. You know, those are all of my regular viewers. When you're in the house, please do, you know, let me know that you are there in the house and watching. It'd be an absolute privilege and pleasure to know that you are joining me here today. Okay, so I do have we've got brother Geb in the house. Rise up, brother Geb. Great to have you in the house. It's and he's wishing me a new cycle as well. He says, rise up as we prepare for the new cycle. Yes, and I'm wishing you a wonderful new cycle. May it be an absolutely phenomenal one, a great one for you, brother Geb. You are, you know, truly a very valued member of our community. You make such a wonderful contribution to my shows, my radio shows, my YouTube shows. Yeah, for those of you who don't know, I am also a radio presenter, and I do have a show on Galaxy Afiri Radio, the only de-brainwashing station. And so, yeah, family, tune in to the Big G Galaxy Afiri. Okay, I know most of you have probably got a busy, got lots of plans for today, so I really want to kick off and go into the presentation that I have for you today. Now, I hope that Zoom is going to allow me to show you the presentation. Sometimes it does, and sometimes it doesn't. So what I'm going to do now is try and share screen and see if it will allow me to show you the presentation that I have prepared for you today, family. I'm not going to try and do anything too no, I'm just going to have it plain and square. That way it should take less bandwidth, and I ought to be able to share that screen with you. Okay, so just click the square, the share rather, and hopefully you are already seeing my presentation. And as I said, as you come through the door, please do, let me know that you're in the house. Please do give me a thumbs up, give me a like, and also, yeah, share the presentation to family and friends. Right, I'm just waiting for my presentation to come up on YouTube. Yes, I can see it on YouTube. Absolutely fantastic. So we're good to go. Right, my focus for our conversation today, family, is going to be about the Nigeria-US strike. And my position is that we as Africans must not be used to fight other Africans and other African nations, right? And this is already what appears to be happening. Oh yes, on the face of it, the US, are claiming that their strike in Nigeria was targeting, militia groups and terrorists that are supposedly targeting Christians. But we know that that is just a cover story, and we must not, as Africans, allow our leaders, our misleaders, in any way whatsoever to be using us to fight against other Africans. So just waiting for one or two. Oh, rise up. Thank you, Brother Gav. Thanks for letting me know that the presentation is indeed up. Absolutely fantastic. You know what, let me jump out of this at the moment, because I do have some notes by way of opening that I do want to bring to you. So I know the presentation works, which is brilliant. I'm going to go back to that in just a second. But before that, let me go to the opening for today's show, so that you know what we're talking about. So tonight we're going to be talking not just about terrorism, but what we're going to be talking about is the need for us to have a strategy, a need for us as a people to have a strategy when it comes to even the conversations that we have about so-called terrorism on the continent, in particular across the Sahel region, because even though the Sahel region has been successful in kicking out the French and kicking out some of these other foreign nationals out of their country, who had their hands all over, their minerals, their reserves and everything else, these people have not been completely removed. And what we are witnessing is not the end of their intervention in the Sahel, but what we're now seeing is a repackaging and a shift, and a quiet shift from the boots on the ground to proxies in the shadows. And we've got to watch out that Africa isn't used as it was back in the 70s and early 80s, to be fighting wars with each other, proxy wars. So under the language of security, counter-terrorism, fights against Christianity. African nations right now are being positioned against one another. Borders are being militarized, and there's an insatiable attitude from these foreign nationals to once again try and weaponize African nations against each other. So we, as Africans, those of us who love our Africanness and have a love for each other as Africans, we've got to ensure that our borders, are not being militarized, that we are demanding that our leaders, do not choose to work in partnership with these foreign military nationals, but they choose sovereignty, that they avoid the chaos that could come from jumping into bed with these foreign nationals. Because the question is no longer who is going to be attacking who, but our question has to be who is going to benefit when Africa burns? Who's going to benefit, when Africa starts fighting each other? And we need leaders who are brave enough to say no to these foreign nationals. And if they're not brave enough to say no, then I say they ought to step down. If they're not brave enough to say no, they need to step down. So this is a new day on the continent of Africa, family. And Ibrahim Traore has already warned us, sadly, that this could be, a very dark, bleak winter indeed. Let me go over to the chat. Let me see if the family is ready for us to go into today's presentation. Rise up, rise up. Oh, Brother Jug, but I haven't, the Brother Jughead is in the house. It's been absolutely awesome to have you here. I mean, I haven't seen you for a while. Oh my gosh, he says, big up, Sister Shanice. Tinubu is a disgrace to Nigeria and the global African Black family. Even though my parents are Nigerian, I fully support the Sahel. Absolutely, we do too. I fully support the Sahel as well. Thank you so much for your gift, Brother Joe. It's great to have you back in the house. It's been a while. Where have you been? We've also got Miss Kev in the house. Thank you so much for joining us, Miss Kev. It's great to have you in the house all the way from the USA. Yes, please do give us a thumbs up as you come into the house. So as I was saying, we've got to make sure that we are not being used, family, to fight foreign proxy wars. So what's happened recently, as all of us know, Christmas Day, Donald Trump, he launched a powerful and deadly strike, supposedly against ISIS in Nigeria. Now, let me just quickly read what he said. This is what he tweeted. Tonight, at my direction as Commander-in-Chief, the United States launched a powerful and deadly strike against ISIS terrorist scum in northwest Nigeria, who have been targeting and viciously killing primarily innocent Christians at levels not seen for many years and even centuries. Family, do we really think that Donald Trump gives two hoots about African Christians in Nigeria? If he doesn't care about Africans in America, I hope that there isn't a single Nigerian who genuinely believes that he, as Donald Trump, cares about Christians who are Christians in Nigeria. He has no love, no care for no Black person, and no Nigerian or any other African anywhere in this world. I mean, and he'll be the first to say it. He'll be the first to call us scum, to call our country shitholes, to call, our people all sorts of awful names. So what makes us think that, he has any concern whatsoever for Christians? Look at what's happening in Palestine. Look at what's happening in Sudan. Look at what's happening in the Congo, in Cameroon. You know, look at what's happening in all of these places. Do it, family. Let's not be fooled by their narrative. Anyway, he goes on to say, I have previously warned these terrorists. Yes, he's been sending out warnings because that's what they do. They build up a narrative. They build up a propaganda campaign to justify doing what they then intended to do in the first place. Then he's saying, I warn these terrorists, if they did not stop the slaughtering of Christians. Who are these terrorists? We're going to be looking at who these terrorists are, family. We're going to be talking about who these terrorists are in the presentation today, who's financing them, etc., who's arming them. Yeah, he said, if these terrorists don't, he's previously warned these terrorists that if they did not stop the slaughtering of Christians, there would be hell to pay. And tonight there was. The Department of War executed numerous perfect strikes, as only the United States is capable of doing. Under my leadership, our country will not allow radical Islamic terrorism to prosper. Stop financing them then. Stop financing these radical Islamic terrorists, and then they won't be able to prosper. Anyway, may God bless our military, he says. A Merry Christmas to all, including the dead terrorists, of course, of which there were none, as we know. And he said that there will be many more if their slaughtering of Christians continues. Now, this was a very symbolic move by Donald Trump, bombing Nigeria on Christmas Day, supposedly in partnership with Nigeria. But could Nigeria really have objected to what the US was planning to do? They certainly ought to have been able to. And if they were not able to object, if Tinubu didn't feel able and capable of objecting, then as I said, he really ought to just have stood down. Okay, right now, why is this not going to the next slide? Next slide. Well, here we go. Right, so the US supposedly bombs its target. This is the news headline, according to Al Jazeera. US bombs its ISIL target in Nigeria, but they were also asking the question, what's really going on? And we're asking that question as well. What's really going on? The United States has launched powerful and deadly Christmas strikes in Nigeria against ISIL, they say. Trump says northern strikes are related to Christian genocide, but attacks on Christian farmers have occurred in a different part of the country. Now, US is supposed to have all of this intelligence. So with all of this intelligence, surveillance, and information that they have, you would think they would know where the ISIL terrorists are, would you not? Or is it that they didn't want to kill any of the terrorists? And if it was because they didn't want to kill any of the terrorists, why would they not really want to kill any of the terrorists? You tell me in the chat. Love to know what your thinking is around this. Anyway, Al Jazeera go on to say that one town which appeared to have been hit was Jabo in the northwestern Sokoto state, but no ISIL-linked cells are known to operate there. Furthermore, when Trump and other US right-wingers have referred to a Christian genocide in Nigeria, they have usually mentioned entirely different area in central Nigeria. So they've got the area completely wrong. This is the area that their intelligence has said is where there are cells of ISIL terrorists. However, there is no known terrorist operations in that area. So what's going on there, family? Problem, reaction, solution. Yes, indeed. What is the root cause of these violent militia atrocities? This is what we're going to be looking at, you know, in this presentation today. Is it really about religion? And who funds ISIL, Boko Haram, and these other militia groups? Who arms them? Who provides the intelligence information for them? You know, these are the questions we need to be asking, and these are some of the questions that's going to be answered today, because we need to know, family, exactly what's going on. It's so important that we as a people are aware The reason being is because, you know, when we're in a state of awareness, then it makes it more difficult, you know, for the terrorists to try and claim that they are assisting us, because we know the real deal. So I've come across this counterterrorism website, and on this counterterrorism website, they have information about all the different terrorist organizations, and you wonder, what? How do they know so much about them? Let me give you an insight into, you know, the sort of information that you can get from this counterterrorism website. So if you want to know about ISIS, the terrorist group that's operating in West Africa, they can give you an overview, and they say that ISIS West Africa, so they've given it the title ISIS WA, one of ISIS's largest and most lethal branches, controls broad swathes of territory and has killed or displaced thousands of people in Nigeria, they know this, and neighboring countries. The branch formed in 2015, so they know when it formed, when Boko Haram pledged allegiance to ISIS and adopted the name ISIS West Africa. ISIS West Africa seeks to establish an ISIS caliphate. The branch collaborates with ISIS Sahel and fights former Boko Haram members who broke from ISIS WA. The branch exacerbates sectarian violence through its attacks and exploits poor economic conditions and social divisions in the Lake Chad region to attract members. So they know where they're operating. They know all about this particular terrorist group. And they say that they're primarily operating in the northeastern region of Nigeria, and they also operate throughout the Lake Chad region and on the border of Cameroon, Chad, Niger, and Nigeria. They know how many members they have. They say they have 4,000 to 7,000 fighters. They also are familiar with the tactics that they use and their targets. Their tactics that they use are ambushes, military-style assaults, roadside bombs, kidnappings, and targeted killings, and equips its fighters with small arms, vehicle-mounted weapons, RPGs, mines, rockets, and IEDs. Where are they getting these rockets, these mines, these vehicle-mounted weapons? Who is equipping these fighters? The branch mainly attacks regional military targets and civilian defense forces, and frequently attacks government personnel and infrastructure, foreign aid workers for kidnapping and hostage taking, Christians and other civilians who ISIS WA perceives as working against the branch or opposing its interpretation of Sharia. So that to me is quite a, you know, quite in-depth information about this particular terrorist group. So, you know, this organization knows their tactics, where they're operating, the number of members. And if you go on to read, they can even tell you, you know, who the commanders are of these this terrorist group. They also know quite a lot about Boko Haram. They say that Boko Haram is a Sunni violent extremist group that seeks to establish Salaf Islamist state in Nigeria, free from Western-style education and influence, which the group views as corrupting to Islamic values. And since its founding, so they know when it's founded in 2002, Boko Haram has affiliated at times with Al-Qaeda and ISIS, but it is currently unaffiliated with either group. Since 2021, Boko Haram has lost many of its fighters and some territory to its rival group, ISIS West Africa, but it continues to conduct frequent attacks, particularly in the Lake Chad region. They say that they particularly operate in northeastern Nigeria, and they conduct attacks in Cameroon, Chad, and Niger, and that they have about 1,500 members. In terms of their tactics, Boko Haram uses small arms, indirect fire weapons, and IEDs to attack civilians and regional security forces. Now, these just sound like briefs as well to these groups to me. The group conducts kidnappings, primarily targeting local residents to obtain ransoms, medical services, and conscripts. Boko Haram last abducted a Westerner in 2014 and the group received $3.1 million in ransom for the release of 7 French hostages in 2013. It has also used kidnapping victims, including women and children, as suicide bombers. Now, you would think, wouldn't you, if they could get so much money from kidnapping foreign hostages, that they would always be targeting foreign hostages. But, you know, no, that's outside of their brief, isn't it? It seems, you know, instead, you know, they are targeting locals for, as victims of kidnapping. And so these terrorist groups are really criminal groups as well. And the terrorist group designated by the US State Department as a foreign terrorist organization, and that was in 2013. And if you go onto the site, family, you will find that there are over 50 of these terrorist groups. This website, Terrorism Guide website, knows in the level of detail that I have just given you about Boko Haram and ISIS, yeah, they know the same level of detail of over 50 terrorist groups. What does that tell you? Who could have that level of information about over 50 terrorist groups? And it will also tell you as well, family, you know, who their chief commanders are, how many, you know, of these terrorists there are as part of their outfits. Let me see what you'll say in the chat. Yes, Miss Kev, oil is definitely part of the agenda as well, because we know, you know, that in Nigeria, oh, what's his name? The big oil merchant, he's just built that huge oil refinery. Please tell me his name in the chat. Built that huge oil refinery in Nigeria. And there must be some kind of deal there to stop them getting their hands on what he is actually doing. But there's so much oil in the region, and the neighbors have a lot of oil. Niger has a lot of oil and other minerals as well. We want to rise up. Betty is in the house. Hotep, good to have you in the house. Family. So who benefits from this military-industrial complex? Who benefits? Let me see if someone gonna come up. Dangote, yes, thank you, beloved. Yes, Dangote. Yeah, you know, he's managed to very successfully build a huge oil refinery in Nigeria. Now you've got to have some protection, and you've got to be paying some protection money, you know, for that not to be bombed. Yeah. So the US seem to have to look elsewhere. Oil, they are always trying to get their hands on other people's oil. So yes, definitely that is one of their primary objectives as well, to get their hands on oil, because whilst there's terrorism operating, they can loot and they can pillage and they can get natural resources almost free of charge. So first, family, let's remind ourselves of who actually benefits from military, from this military wars. So the primary beneficiaries are typically the military-industrial complexes and the industries that support the war effort. So who are, you know, these typical military industries, you know? These are the defense contractors and the arms manufacturing companies, such as Lockheed Martin, RTX Corporation, Northrop Grumman. These are substantial industries that gain financially from the wars that happen. And so the financial gains are such that when there's a war going on and there's a demand for weapon, a demand for ammunition and their military hardware, you know, their profits just goes through the ceiling. And of course, you've got these large government contracts as well that they will get from the various nations who feel, you know, threatened by terrorists or by war. And in addition to the defense contractors and the large government contracts that the contracts that they get. You've got private military companies. These are firms that provide logistics, security on the ground, training services on the ground, in conflict zone. They profit significantly. And who's paying them? The taxpayers. Yeah. And a lot of these military activities by these private sector firms as well operates without, the level of oversight that the national militaries would have. And so when we see right across all of these African countries, all of these security services, these police forces, all armed to the roof, armed to the ceiling with similar kind of battle gear, and they've all got had the same training. These are private military companies that are charging governments vast sums of money, to provide the training and the logistics, for their forces. Huge sums of money to be made. And then you've got the financial institutions and the investors. So the banks are going to invest in these firms because they know that they're going to get back a huge profit. And so they'll loan them the money that they want. And then, once a war happens, oh my gosh, then the stock prices go up, the defense stocks go up. There's a surge, in income to these companies, so during times of conflict and geopolitical instability, and with terrorism happening on the borders of so many of these countries, which forces these countries to have to engage in these private military companies, which forces these countries to have to then spend vast sums of money on defense contracts. And it means that these countries sometimes even have to sell their minerals, their oil, their gold, just to get the money to buy, the artillery and such. These industrial complexes benefit hugely from war. Let's never forget that, and of course there are the subsidiary industries that benefit as well. So when there's instability, the energy companies put the prices up. So oil, gas prices go up, agricultural foods go up, because it's more dangerous to supply regions where there's war or terrorists operating. So then there's shortages, and when there's shortages, the profits, the price rises, and so they get more profits, and there's price volatility. And so all of this, happens within the context of within an environment where, there's war and there's sanctions. And of course, after the war has totally devastated regions, these regions have got to be reconstructed. So then you have the big companies that come in that want to develop these areas that have been decimated by terrorists, So then you've got the reconstruction that's needed, the infrastructure that needs to be rebuilt that's been destroyed. And so these large developing companies then come in with plans to rebuild the cities that have been destroyed, to rebuild the infrastructure. And, these are huge lucrative contracts as well that tend to go to outsiders, tend to go to those on the sidelines, who, are waiting to benefit from the fallout of these conflicts. And so there's a huge amount of finances to be earned by these companies in the event of war. So war is a business. Let's not get it twisted. And how does the US business actually profit from the war? From war worldwide? You can go to that article that was written by Sahara back in December 2023, where she goes into talking about how the US businesses actually profit from war. Wherever the war is, they profit. The US spends hundreds of billions of dollars, both domestically and internationally, to advance US interests. But some of the biggest beneficiaries are also some of the world's largest corporations. And in 2022, Biden signed the National Defense Authorization Act, allocating a whopping $816.7 billion to the US Defense Department. So family, we're not talking about no little bit of money when it comes to the business of war. Yeah? When it comes to the business of war, we're talking about vast sums of money, billions. It is a multi-billion-dollar industry. The article goes on to say that much of the budget, about 389.5 billion, was spent on military contracts to secure weaponry and services from defense contractors, according to the DoD annual report. Now, these weapons are for both US stockpiles and are shipped abroad to allies. These billions go towards supporting a massive global arms industry that reaps the benefits of conflict. These defense contractors reap the benefits of conflict. Yeah, the US war machinery reaps the benefits of conflict. According to the Department of Defense, the top US military contractors in 2022 include Lockheed Martin Corporation, Raytheon Technologies Corporation, and General Dynamics Corporation. Together, those companies account for 297.68 billion in market capitalization. Family, war is a multi-billion-dollar industry. War is, where there's peace, these industries don't make any money. When there's peace, the US isn't making the amount of money that we're talking about here. Because, who are the beneficiaries of these defense contractors? Who are the people, the CEOs, the chief executives, and the trustees and the beneficiaries of the Lockheed and the Raytheon technology type corporations? They're not African companies, They profit from our misery. The arms business goes worldwide, and the United States of America is the largest exporter of weapons. So when we talk about Africa not being in the business of making weapons, not profiting from war, what we can see, family, is that Africa is on the receiving end of all of these weapons because of all of this terrorist activities that is happening on their borders, that someone is financing, that someone is weaponizing. These terrorist groups are well weaponized, well equipped, well trained. And here we have, the United States of America as the largest exporter of weapons. They are literally profiting off of war. For every bomb they make and sell that is used to kill a child, they make money off of it. This is what was said in the article. We have to protest, he goes on to say, because they're directly complicit. These companies are complicit in war. They need to have their instruments of torture coming from somewhere, and they come from these corporations that are making these weapons and at the same time making our life a misery, family. War is a business. And, we've got our brothers in the Sahel who've taken back the sovereignty of their country. They've decided that, they don't want war anymore. They're fed up, of fighting the terrorists on their borders. They're going to get rid of the terrorists once and for all. And they want to concentrate on having a peaceful nation so that they can, look after their citizens and their citizens can enjoy a decent, good quality of life. But these warmongers, are they going to allow that to happen? Are these warmongers going to allow Africa, to have peace so that the youth of tomorrow and the youth of today in Africa can enjoy a decent quality of life. Let's go back to the Christmas US-Nigeria strike. You know, these Islamic groups, Boko Haram, been openly violent in Nigeria from 2009. So, you know, they haven't just appeared. They've been operating, you know, 15, 16 years or so. Most citizens are totally opposed to violence in all of its forms. I too, totally opposed to violence. Nigerians, the ordinary Nigerians, they don't want to have Boko Haram, ISIS, or any of these terrorist groups operating in their regions. But let's be clear, the violence in Nigeria is not a religious act, it's a criminal act. And there are companies who are profiteering from these criminal acts and off of the backs of our misery. And the ones who are suffering in Nigeria are not just Christians, they are Christians, Muslims, African traditionalists, you know, and everybody else. We're all victims and casualties of the violence that's happening on the continent, and the people of Nigeria all suffer as a result of the violence that's being perpetrated by these well-armed criminals, yeah, and their backers. And so, you know, if we are clear as a people, family, that the violence in Nigeria is not about religion, as they try to claim, then we need to ask ourselves, what is the real reason for the US strike? Why was the provision of US assistance with intelligence not enough? Why did they have to go in and get involved and carry out the strike itself? What are they saying? What were they aiming to prove? Yeah, they've been working. We know that the French tried to get Nigeria to, when Tinubu was head of ECOWAS, I don't know if he's still head of ECOWAS, but, you know, they tried to get him to invade Burkina Faso. But the whole of Nigeria and people in the Sahel region came out in force against that happening, you know, so he couldn't go ahead with it. Even his own lawmakers said it was unlawful. Now here we have the US coming in through the back door, claiming now, you know, to want to carry out acts of violence in that region on the border of Niger, yeah, on the border of Niger, claiming that, you know, they're targeting Christians. Really? And we know that they have the technological spyware to know exactly where the bandits are. You know, they can go, they can use their drones to fly overhead. They know where all these criminals and bandits and terrorists are. They could be taken out overnight, just like the coup operators in Benin was taken out very swiftly with precision, you know, following the advanced spyware information they had. They knew exactly where to get those army officials, and they swiftly took them out. These bandits, these terrorists can be taken out, I believe, with the same level of precision almost overnight without strikes needed, because they know who they are, where they are, how many of them there are, and what they would need to do in order to flush them out. So, you know, what is the real motive? The intelligence is there to tell them exactly where these terrorists are. So what are the real motives? I've got a beautiful sis here, Dr. Shola. I follow her. If you don't, you really ought to follow her. You know, she's done a great video, and she said that Trump bombing Nigeria was not to save Christians. And I believe her too. And then we also have in her video a clip from Sky News, I think it was, a reporter who was questioning why Trump actually bombed that particular region that he did, because, you know, there was zero to no terror affiliation in that region at all. you know, it was something like once about 10 years ago, there might have been a mention of a terrorist activity, but there's been like zero or no terror affiliation known in that region at all. So what is it really about? Now, I'd love to play a clip for you, but I think I'm going to have to stop share and then go into the Facebook clip so that I can pull that up. So let's do that. Let me just minimize this for you, family, and find a clip of our beautiful sister Shola. I love her posts, you know. Her posts always pop up on my screen, and I thoroughly enjoy listening to her posts. Right. No thanks for that. Oh, where's it gone? Okay, right. Sorry about that. Okay, let's where's that happened? All right, so I'm just lining that up behind in the background there. I've got a twin. Oh, that's what I've got. I've got a twin thing happening on here that I don't want. So, okay. Yeah, sorry about this. Oh, no, you're not the one that I want. Stop that. Okay, oh, let's go back. Let's go back. Sorry about that. I've got the next one coming up is okay, I don't think Shola is going to be able to play smoothly. I think it might be to do with my bandwidth. So unfortunately, I may not be able to play her, but please do check her out, Dr. Shola, hear what she has to say. I'll try, but you know, somehow I don't think it's actually going to happen. But let me try. Here we go. Okay, family, it's see, will it play? Will the bandwidth allow me to play?
I'm going to say this as calmly as I can, because some of you are getting on my last God-given nerves. Donald Trump's launch of airstrikes on northern Nigeria had absolutely nothing to do with saving. It was never his intention. It is clear that it was a show of dominance and power for an absolutely different ulterior
let me start that again. Let's see.
Motive.
Okay. Right, it's just spinning a little bit, but hopefully it'll go.
As I can, because some of you are getting on my last God-given nerves. Calmly as I can, because some of you are getting on my last God-given nerves. Donald Trump's launch of airstrikes on northern Nigeria had absolutely nothing to do with Syria.
Tell him, sis.
It was never his intention.
Right.
It is clear that it was a show of dominance and power for an absolutely different ulterior. Let me start that again. It's your motive. Okay. Right, just spinning a little bit.
Sorry, hopefully I'm not sure what's going on there.
As I can, because some of you are getting on my last nerves. Calmly as I can.
Okay, getting a little not sure. Oh, I think I know. Maybe the yeah, take.
Donald Trump's launch of airstrikes on northern Nigeria had absolutely nothing to do with saving Christians. It was never his intention. It is clear that it was a show of dominance and power for an absolutely different ulterior motive. I need you to start to critically think and ask serious questions like, why did Trump target these specific communities in Sokoto State in northern Nigeria, which have experienced zero or little terrorist incidents. Listen in.
We have spoken to a journalist on the ground in Sokoto who said to us that one of the communities hit by the strikes has never reported any incident of terror, and that the two communities hit simultaneously, there is only expected to be one where maybe potentially some hideouts of IS-affiliated fighters have been hit. Still very unclear, but in the community that has never reported any terror, they haven't had any casualties, but some homes of civilians have been partially...
Now you heard that. One of those three communities experienced no terrorism. The other one is another one might, maybe has had some. You mean you bombed Nigerians on a freaking maybe? On a maybe. You damaged homes? You hurt Nigerians on a maybe. Are you asking yourselves, why didn't he launch airstrikes on those other northern Nigerian states that are rife with terrorists? You know, Kanu, Plateau, Bornu, all of these other ones that we constantly hear about terrorist attacks. Why go to specific communities in Sokoto that have zero or little? Why? Because this is part of the calculated strategy. A calculated strategy to weaponize the murder and persecution of Nigerian Christians and Muslims to further America's capitalist interests. Because if you don't know, America has been funding Boko Haram and ISIS and have always known that these terrorist groups kill, murder, and rape, and did nothing to stop them because it suited their agenda. So right now, when they're swooping in as savior, nah, it's not because they care. It's because it's to further their capitalist interests. And two, they're using Sokoto State as the backdoor to Burkina Faso, Niger, and Mali. You know, the new axis of African power that is shaking the West to its very core. The West see it as a threat to its access to African resources and as a threat to the West's dominance on African people. And for those of you who are gullible enough to believe that this was a collaboration with the Nigerian government, I have a bridge to sell you. This was no collaboration. It was a command from America. Trump was going to do whatever the heck he wants, and the Nigerian government is trying to save face by calling it a collaboration. Because think about it. If this was a collaboration, why would the Nigerian government take America all the way to Sokoto State, where there was little or no incidents of terrorist attacks, to those particular communities, and not to the states that are rife with terrorism, states that the Nigerian government, which is in bed with these terrorists and constantly has peace meetings with the terrorists and know these terrorists by name, by face, know their family, know where they're located, would definitely have taken them to the right people or right place if it was a real collaboration. People, please use the brain cells God gave you. I need you to be smarter, because they are not even subtle. We are coming in because of ISIS terrorists is the equivalent of we are coming in because Iraq has weapons of mass destruction. It's the equivalent of war on drugs. It's actually war on black people. Think, if Donald Trump can be arming and funding the Israelis' genocide of Palestinian Christians, why the hell do you think he will come and save Nigerian Christians? The man does not care. It's all about lining the pockets of the elites, and they're using Nigeria to deflect from Israel's genocide. Wake the heck up. And those of you thanking Trump isn't your friend. Same Trump who called Nigeria shithole country. Same Trump who just denied all Nigerians visas to America, including the Nigerian Christians he cares so much about, and who he's not affording any refugee status like he did to the white South Africans. This same Trump who just stole a tanker of crude oil from Nigeria, doing to Nigeria what America accused Yemen of doing. People, wake up.
Rise up.
I don't know who needs to hear this, but
So I thought that was just such, a beautiful and poignant script, family. I just needed you to hear that. And our sister Shola, please do follow her on Facebook, follow her on Instagram. She delivers some brilliant posts about a whole range of topics that are in the pertinent to us as a family. Okay, this next thing just wants to get played. Let me just get rid of it altogether. Okay, all right, family. Sorry about that. So we're going to go back to the presentation, but I think Sister Shola actually makes the case so clearly. Yeah, it's not about saving Christians. It's not. It's about gaining access to the Sahel region. And yes, CV is saying big up to Dr. Shola, Sister Dr. Shola. Yeah, bigger up every time. Rise up, Almin Ministries, who's in the house. Good to have you in the house. Said, saw the headline and I clicked as it's facts. Thank you. Rise up, rise up. War is a racket. There's a book by Major General Smedley D. Butler entitled War is a Racket. Check that book out as well. And Betty's saying that the military industrial complex, that's right, the rich people only. This is their way of making vast sums of money, indeed. So I welcome your thoughts and comments. If you want to drop any comments in the chat, please do feel welcome to do so. So let's go back to the presentation and continue where we left off. I think Dr. Shola just says it all so succinctly. Bigger up every time. Rise up, our sister queen. Okay, so play from current slide. Let's continue where we left off. So she's making it absolutely clear Trump's bombing of Nigeria was not to save Christians. There are alternative motives. There are ulterior motives. And inviting the US or any foreign country to launch strikes from your territory is just unbelievably dangerous. It sets such a dangerous precedent, you know? How can you do that? How, you know, I think it's time for Tinubu to step down. That's what I think. What do you think, family? He clearly didn't have the balls to say no to the US. But you know, the thing that really shocked me, you know, I was listening to this wonderful Pan-African speech by the Ghana president. I've actually got that lined up as well. And you think from what he says that he understands the enemy. But then it turns out that he's hosting US intelligence surveillance. Yeah, he's allowing the US to take off, you know, from his region. But let me come back to that because I've got a clip and an article that goes into it in a bit of detail, and I would really like to read that to you. So family, you know, if the US Army are controlling your airspace, you know, as a independent sovereign country, then you're not independent and sovereign at all. And all you're taught is just talk. So, you know, here we have Nigeria who are on the border of Niger. And as we know, Niger has just kicked out the US Army. They kicked out France. They kicked them all out. But it's one thing to kick these people out of your country, and it's another thing to keep them from interfering in your country. And they have the ability to do so from the intelligence equipment that they have in the neighboring nations. And why would they want to have the surveillance activity? Obviously, because they want to track their militia groups, and they want to know what the militia group activities are happening in the region, and also, you know, what Niger, Burkina Faso, and Mali are actually doing and what they're planning. Because imagine if they can surveil them from the air. They'll be able to see where their army bases are, how many soldiers they have, you know, and their equipment will probably enable them to even pick up, you know, via the transmitters, what's actually being said and what's being planned on the ground. So, you know, this is serious. So in case we are unaware of how many foreign bases there are across Africa, take a look at this map. Is this not a new scramble for Africa? You know, there are foreign army bases all over the continent of Africa. It's a very, very concerning state of affairs. And if we look at where all these army bases are, they're in places where we have the problem of terrorism. So which comes first, the army bases or the terrorists? Let me know what you think in the chat. Is it the terrorists that come first, and so we need the army bases to deal with the terrorists? Or is the army bases that come first that then seems to produce the terrorists? Well, I know our brothers in the Sahel believed it to be the latter, and I'm very inclined to believe them. So when the Sahel region kicked out the US, France, and other European army bases, they significantly reduced the military bases that they had in the Sahel region. And so they had two key sites. They had Airbase 101, Niamey. That was a key site for drone operations in Niger. And they also had Airbase 201, the Agadez. That was a major drone hub for their ISR missions and for drone surveillance. But the US, although they withdrew following the coup, they were back in through the back door, and they're coming in through Nigeria and Ghana. So with the major US Sahel footprint centered in Niger, largely gone, there's a new need, is there not, for their current operations to lean towards new partnerships and to then put in place similar deployments in neighboring countries. And this is where Nigeria and Ghana comes into play. Yes, the US are seeking new allies. The United States has resumed intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance. Did I say it right? Reconnaissance operations over Nigeria's northeast region, supposedly targeting militants in the Sambisa forest, following Thursday night's airstrike on ISIS fighters in Sokoto state. So here they are now across the other side of northern Nigeria, yeah, and they have resumed intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance operations over Nigeria's northeastern region. And Brant Phillip, a Sahel-focused terrorism tracker, disclosed the development on Saturday, sharing flight tracking data showing a US aircraft flying over Borno State. So here we have, family, Nigeria working hand in hand with the US and allowing their tracker aircraft to be flying over their region and across their borders. Now, you know, these trackers are going to be spying over the other side of the fence where we've got Niger. According to the data, the aircraft involved was a Gulfstream V, a long-range business jet, often modified for intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance missions. Philip explained that the Saturday operation focused on the Islamic State, West Africa province, and ISIS affiliate operating mainly in Nigeria's northeast and Lake Chad basin. Flight tracking information reviewed by multiple open source analysts indicated that the US began its operation, its ongoing ISR missions in Nigeria on November 24th. But look where they took off from, taking off from Ghana, which serves as a logistics hub for the American military network in West Africa. Our Pan-African is speaking. President of Ghana allows the US to take off from his country to carry out their reconnaissance mission, their surveillance missions across Nigeria, and as we know, Niger as well. You know, these African leaders, family, that we've got today need to step down. They are traitors to the African people. They are traitors to the citizens of Africans today, and history will judge them accordingly. Better they step down and get out the way if they can't tell these people no. Because, you know, we've just heard about how profitable, the war industry is. And the last thing that we want to have happen is for these people to be waging war and be bringing proxy wars onto African soil. Family, we just need to realize before it's too late, you know, how dangerous this war situation is. So here we have the presidents of Nigeria and of Ghana working hand in hand with the US. We don't have the luxury of forgetting, he says. This is what the president of Ghana said in a speech recently. We don't have the luxury of forgetting. But then what does he do? He forgets these people, who these people really are. He said, we have been divided by the manufacturing of coups, armed conflict, anti-poverty programs that somehow never eradicate poverty. He talks about how they stereotype us, how they portray us as Africans as savages. These are the things he was saying, you know, about what the Europeans say about us and how they see us. He was talking about the history and what's happened to us, but then he turns around and he works with those same people. So he talks a good talk, but when it comes to action, I'm very disappointed, very disappointed. So as we know, France had backed Nigeria when they were threatening armed conflict, you know, in Niger. If you remember a little while ago, Nigeria's President Tinubu, you know, he was threatening to intervene in the Sahel region following the coup in Burkina Faso and Niger. And he was trying to use the armed forces of various ECOWAS countries to go in to reinstate, you know, the puppet of the West in those countries. But as you know, he wasn't successful in doing that. So here he comes again now, not with France this time, but with the US. And the objective is the same. Different narrative, same objective. So we may have seen a shift in managers. France has gone out one door, but the US has come in the other. And we've got these Western military who are actually posturing as, you know, our saviors. But basically, it's just a rebranding of the intervention. And it's not an end to the war at all. It's just a rebranding of their military activity in the region. Although we saw France being expelled from the Sahel region, now we see the United States under Donald Trump coming back through the swinging swivel doors. He's using Nigeria and Ghana as regional launch pads for their reconnaissance and intelligence and surveillance operations. And, you know, they are fanning the flames of terrorism and claiming, you know, to be the saviors who are going to counter this terrorism activity. But as we know, problem, reaction, solution. The real objective appears to be the reignition and the destabilization inside the Niger and the Sahel region. So this is a call to action for us, family. You know, we have got to build political awareness and political consciousness, because for as long as we are informed, and for as long as all of our people are informed, and we don't have naive Nigerians clapping the US for launching bombs in their country, claiming that, yes, they've come to save them from Boko Haram. As long as, you know, we get the message, you know, to these ill-informed people, and they are all clear, then in the same way, we had the mass protests and the mass demonstrations when they were threatening, when Nigeria was threatening through ECOWAS to invade the Sahel region. That's the same level of response, family, that we need from everybody to stop, you know, this build-up of military activity in the northern region of Nigeria, which is really the gateway that they want to use to get to the minerals and the resources in the Sahel region. We need to reject the use of African soil against other African states. African leaders, we need to condemn those African leaders who are allowing their soil to be used, yeah, for these spy operations of other African states. This is outrageous and should be condemned. We need to strengthen the African-led security operation. We need to mobilize globally as Africans and the African diaspora. We need to operate at a diplomatic force as well. There are those in our community who are able to do so and must do so. Everybody needs to take up their rightful position, yeah, to try and avert what the enemy and the wicked ones are planning. Because, you know, Ibrahim Traore, he was talking about this possibly being a dark winter, a bloody winter, because he knows what they've got planned. But we've got to stop that from happening, family. Yeah, to be forewarned is to be forearmed. You are being forewarned here. Yeah, the fight is not about the Christians and Boko Haram's terrorism activities against the Christians. They're financing Boko Haram. We all know that. They are the ones who are benefiting financially from the wars. It's their war industrial organizations that are making all of the arms and are benefiting from it. We are the ones who will suffer, family. So as Pan-Africanists, we've got to continue to call for that unity. We've got to make sure we're not operating in silos, and that our nations are not operating in silos, but that they are working together for the betterment of us as Africans. Otherwise, history is going to judge them harshly. We are at a crossroads again, family. This is the Casablanca, Monrovia crossroads all over again. What are we going to do? Are we going to go and are we going to stand together in unity, yeah, and resist the external forces that want to bring war on our territory? Or are we going to go with our tail between our legs and go along with the war machinery and bring proxy wars to the continent of Africa again? I certainly hope not, because in short, proxy wars thrive in ignorance. It thrives in division and dependency, but they fail where there is consciousness, where there is unity, and where we as Africans have self-determination and are determined to ensure that we are no longer used by other nations for their own political game. So family, what is it going to be? Let me hear what you have to say in the chat. Rise up, rise up. Yes, greed is definitely, part of their game. Let me, drop your comments in the chat, family. This is your opportunity to interact with me. I've done the presentation. Let me see what you are saying in the chat. Okay, there's I've read out most of those messages already. Rise up the Jughead, who's dropped another £5 for me. Thank you so much. He says, my loyalty is to our African fatherland stroke motherland, not a geographical area called Nigeria. Happy New Year, sis, Brother Jeff. Rise up, Brother Jeff. Yes, indeed. This is what we need to be about. You know, one Africa, one nation, one people, African unity. Drop your comments in the chat, family. Want to hear from you. Let's go down. War is Iraqi. Absolutely. I did read that message already. Yeah, if you've got any messages that you want to drop in the chat, please do. And I certainly will read them out. Now, I know a lot of you are going to be preparing, aren't you not, to go out and celebrate the incoming year. So I'm not going to be keeping you for much longer. But, you know, if there are any messages that you want to share with our brothers and sisters in the chat, then please do drop them now, because I certainly, want to hear what your thoughts, views and opinions are with regard to this particular subject. I've shared with you my thoughts and what I think the real agenda is around here, and it definitely is not about the US wanting to save Christians. Absolutely not. But there are some of you who may think that that is what the war is about. If there are some of you who still think that, please let me know as well, because I want to make sure that I'm getting through to my family here. Unity for Africa, says Marcia. Yes, unity indeed is what we need as Africans. If we don't have unity, then we are going to be divided as a people. And so, let's make sure that we are putting pressure on our leaders to move in the spirit of oneness, the spirit of solidarity, across all African nations. Drop your comments, yes, in the chat, family. Also, please remember to give me a thumbs up if you haven't already done so. And if you have not already subscribe to the channel, then please do subscribe to the channel. It would be great to have you as a subscriber to this channel. There are just so many videos on this channel that you, I'm sure, would be delighted to watch. Well over 400 videos. I've been busy over the last how much years. And if you want to make some suggestions as to how, you think I should go forward, then let me know as well, because it's a new year. And what's really important is that I go forward, taking with me that which you want me to take forward, and leave behind maybe what you want me to leave behind. So if you have any suggestions for 2026 for the Sister Shanice Show channel, you can drop your suggestions in the chat as well. Okay, I would be delighted to hear from you. So do so. Let me know what your thoughts and suggestions are for 2026. So how do you think we should be going forward on the Sister Shanice Show channel? Let me know your thoughts. Really want to hear from you. Okay, so we've been talking about all of these terrorist groups that are operating well, I'm talking about all of them in particular. I've been talking about Boko Haram and ISIS, and been talking about, the US and how they benefit financially from the wars and the huge war machinery that's in operation and that's getting ready now to profit financially from their war machines across the continent of Africa. And let's not be in any doubt whatsoever, when we're talking about war, we're talking about thousands and probably tens of thousands of people being displaced. We're talking about thousands of our brothers and sisters losing their lives. We're talking about the destruction of the infrastructure. We're talking about the destruction of people's homes, their daily life and routines. We're talking about hardship because, farmers can't go out to farm because of bombs. We're talking about people, ending up in camps. And of course, there's another industry that benefits financially from our people being in these camps. This is a serious, serious situation. Marcy says, you are appreciated for all your Sister Shanice's contribution over the years. Thank you so, so much, Marcy Arts. Good to know. Thank you. Good to know that you appreciate the works. Rise up yourself for that, sis. Beautiful, beautiful. Okay, let's see. Any more comments in the chat? Or are we ready to wrap up? Let me know. Are we ready to wrap up? Any more comments? If there's no more comments from you, then we will get ready to wrap up. And I just want to make sure that I, conclude on our conversation today. Now, I've said a lot in today's presentation, family. And now what happens next is up to us. Yeah, what happens next is up to us. What happens now in the Sahel region is going to define what happens for our next generation. What is history going to show us that happens? Is history going to show us that we went into the dark ages of proxy wars, destabilization, continuation of looting and pillaging, our people having to run and leave their houses, our country being bombed? Is that what we're going to see? Or are we going to see an Africa that stands together, united against the West, united against wars, united, against, the destabilization of our nations? The choice is up to us. We need to recognize the time right now. And I certainly hope that this program today has helped to raise the awareness. And it's not something that we can escape. It's not something that we can escape by being silent. Yeah, silence is complicity. Yeah, and when we are silent about what's going on, if we are not vocalizing our opposition to what the governments are doing and saying, family, if we're not operating as conscious citizens and making sure that our voices are heard, then, family, the unthinkable is going to be happening on the African continent. And I don't want to lose the life of a single brother or sister on the African continent in a battle that is being waged, and financed by our enemy. Let's not allow our country to become a battleground. Let's not allow our territory to be looted whilst we are fighting each other, family. So let's stand together in unity and in strength. And I'm going to end there now and just thank you, each and every one of you, for locking in. I want to wish you an absolutely fantastic, blacktastic 2026 when it comes. Someone sent me a card and it said, as you go out into 2025, stand on your left leg. So when you go into 2026, you're standing on, what is it? No, put your left leg in the air. That's it. When you go out in 2025, put your left leg in the air so that when you go into 2026, you're starting by standing on the right foot. I thought that was so funny. So I just want to share that one with you. Go out of 2025 with your left leg in the air so that you go into 2026 starting with your right foot first. More love, more strength, more Buddha power. Sister Shanice out of here for now. Thank you. Thank you so much for joining me, and all the best to every single one of my wonderful subscribers and supporters for 2026. Brother Jeff, thank you so much for your gifts as well. More love, more strength to each and every one of you.